Hi friends, and welcome back to my channel. It feels like it's been ages since I said that. At first I started to get anxious and experience a bit of anxiety, then I got depressed, then I got sick, which sort of explains why I'm still sounding a bit stuffy and my voice isn't entirely there, so I'm sorry about that. But now I'm working through things, and I'm also working through a life crisis, so that is great. But we're getting closer to the holidays, we're getting closer to the end of the year, and I am excited about that, and I do want to film my end of the year content, so let's jump back into this booktube thing, shall we? And I thought I would actually talk a bit about my reading plans for 2026 in this video. I have not yet posted my best books of the year, that is coming. Same thing with my book awards that I do every single year, that is coming as well, trust that. I also haven't really done any reflection or anything on my reading yet, but I have started to plan what I'm hoping to read next year. So I did make a 25 books in 2025 video at the start of the year where I listed 25 books I hoped I would read in the year. Not gonna lie, we're not gonna need a wrap-up video for that. That hasn't gone that well. I will check actually how many books from that list I have read. I have read a few, haven't done horribly, but it hasn't gone well. And I remember saying something about the consequences being me having to read them at the start of the year or something. That's also not gonna happen. But out of the 25 books I put down, I have read 8. It's okay. It's almost a third. But it ain't good. Sort of want to redeem myself a bit. And I started to make some reading plans for the upcoming year. Based on what mood I've been in, based on what books are being released next year. So I feel like I do have quite a good idea of what I want to read next year. And I feel like I started to work on a list that was a lot more realistic. Because for my 2025 list, I just put down any and all sort of books. Like, it was a very optimistic list that perhaps didn't make sense in some ways. And this time, I really tried to be smart about it. And I started to put down, like, rereads I actually do plan on doing. Like, books I know I will be reading. And as mentioned, based on series and stuff. And when I started to work on this list, I also decided to not call it a 26 books in 2026 because I wasn't gonna force myself to that number. I just wanted to put down books I wanted to read and make like a reading plans in 2026 sort of video. But once I started to put down books and I counted them, I realized that, oh, I'm actually fairly close to 26 books. So might as well make it 26 books to read in 2026. Long intro for this video, but I felt like I needed to give you some context on why I feel a lot more confident in this list and feel like it's still a good idea for me to make this list, even though the previous list didn't go that well. There are 5 categories of books in this list that we will talk through. We have series, that means series continuations, series I want to start, things like that. Books related to series. We have rereads. I have reread a lot of books this year. I've been in quite a nostalgic mood as well, and I feel like that will continue in 2026, so there are definitely a few rereads I'm hoping to do for various reasons. I will talk about them. We then have travel, books I want to read because of some travel plans I have in 2026, followed by adaptions, books I want to read because they are being adapted. And final category is other. Miscellaneous other books I want to get to. 5 categories, and I feel like we should just jump right into it, because we're gonna be here for a while. Sorry about the angled switch, I just felt like I needed to. I've also made a true attempt to not have repeats on this list, so there might be a couple, but really these are books that like, okay, I will get to these because of these reasons. Okay? So, let's start with series. Series I want to start, wrap up, or continue with. Let's start with a book that is actually a repeat from the last list. I just haven't made it as much of a priority as I should have, but I really want to get to this book and start the series and continue with the series. And that book is The Will of the Many by James Islington. Everyone hypes this up, everyone loves this book. Everyone's been hyping up the sequel now, The Strength of the Few. I've been meaning to read it. I started to read it in 2024. I read 1 chapter, barely, not even that, 12 pages. and I wasn't able to continue with it for I don't even remember what reason. It never really happened that I picked it up in 2025. Maybe I have too high expectations on this now, just because it's been so hyped, or I've been focusing on other series, possibly. But this needs to be a priority next year. I really want to get to the series. I don't want it to just pass me by. So this one I'm putting back on the list again. I need to get it read. I really do. I want to be a part of this hype. I don't think I will talk about all of the books that much in depth in this video, but basically this is the start of a epic fantasy series. I feel like it's like inspired by Roman something. It's some sort of prestigious school, some sort of magic, some sort of murder to solve. It has everything. Next up, I want to read The Adventures of Amina al-Serafi. This is also a book that's been on my TBR for a few years that I really want to get to, but I'm too scared to pick up for whatever reason. But the reason I'm putting it on this list this year, this might also be a repeat actually. Apparently it's getting a sequel in 2026. From my understanding, when I first picked it up, it was supposed to be a standalone fantasy, but I then saw that it's getting a sequel in 2026. So in order to prepare for the sequel and maybe be interested in picking up the sequel, I need to read the first book, right? The sequel is called The Tapestry of Fate. I don't quite remember when it will be released. I will make an anticipated releases video at some point, probably in like January, because that book is being released. I feel like I should prioritize this one. And this is some sort of fantasy about a retired pirate who is asked to do like a final quest or something. It seems like it could be fun. I like pirates. A series I want to continue with is the Empyrean series, so Fourth Wing. I read Fourth Wing in 2025. I actually really freaking enjoyed it a lot. I was very entertained, so I picked up its sequel. Haven't really prioritized it either. I want to continue as well, while it's still sort of fresh in my mind. So I feel like I need to prioritize Iron Flame a bit as well. I feel like I'm gonna need your help to tell me which books to prioritize, like out of all of the ones I'm gonna talk about. But yeah, fantasy once again, romantasy, dragons, a fun time. It's very cliche, but it's very fun. Like I was kicking my feet and squealing when I read Fourth Wing, so I'm hoping for something similar here, while at the same time I don't expect the sequels to be as good as Fourth Wing, because Fourth Wing was very trope heavy, and I feel like in these upcoming books the author needs to be a bit more original, and I don't know if she's able to do that yet, so I don't have that high expectations on its sequels, but I still want to continue with the series. Another series that I don't really have that high expectations on, but I really want to wrap this up, is the Broken Blades series. And I need to read Three Shattered Souls, which is the third and final book in this series by Mai Corland. I have not been the biggest fan of the series. I have 2 rant videos about the other books in the series that I have thoroughly enjoyed to work on, like film and annotate for. So I've had a good time experience-wise, but I don't think that these books are good, but they are stunning though. I buy them in the deluxe edition, even though I rate them like 1 or 2 stars. This is a book I actually started earlier this year, so I've already started to prep. I'm hoping to make another like rant video, because I feel like, yeah, it's definitely gonna be a rant video. But I just also want to wrap up this series. But it's not good. I wouldn't recommend this series. I don't think the writing is particularly well done, or like the world building or the character development. Like it's not a good series. It's barely entertaining. Like it's so bad that it can no longer be entertaining. But I'm having a good time reviewing these books. So that's why I'm keeping it up. Because they aren't really that good, this one hasn't really been a priority, but I really want to read it for the video. Let's talk a bit more quality, maybe, perhaps, hopefully. I need to continue with my Brandon Sanderson journey, my Cosmere journey, and I actually have 3 books in this Arcanum Unbounded that I want to get to. I have watched various like reading order lists for Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere universe, and I feel like I have a good idea of what I want to read. I have read Elantris, then Mistborn Era 1, then Warbreaker, then Trust of the Emerald Sea. I've also read the short story in here. Which one is that? I read the 11th Metal. But the stories I want to read before I start another book in the Cosmere universe that I will talk about very soon, I want to read the 2 novellas. So all of these are novellas, but I want to read the like standalone novella, which is The Emperor's Soul, because I've heard great things about it. I also want to read The Hope of Elantris, which I can because I've read Elantris. And I also plan on reading Mistborn Secret History. Now I've seen some debate where you should squeeze in Secret History. Some say after Era 1, some say between book 5 and 6, I think. Or 6 or 7. I'm gonna squeeze it in now. I'm counting this as 3 books, because I do need to read them or want to read them, and I feel like, yeah, it counts. It's my list. I can't really explain much about what these books are about. It's just this epic fantasy universe. There's so many books written in it, and you can read it series by series. You can make an attempt to focus on the entire universe as well. It's up to you really, but this is like a collection of short stories in relation to the universe. And speaking of Brandon Sanderson, once I've read those novellas, those short stories, it's time for me to start reading Stormlight Archive. This is scary. This is scary. The first book in the Stormlight Archive series is The Way of Kings. I am at the point right now where I'm more excited than scared, which is a good thing. The reason I'm scared is because this book is over 1,000 pages long, almost like 1,100, something like that. That's why I'm scared. Like this. This is why I'm scared. I don't really know what this is about either, because it doesn't necessarily relate to the other Brandon Sanderson books I read. But once again, it is in the same universe. I know it's like maybe 1 or 2 characters that jump around a bit. I'm finally starting Sanderson's like huge epic series, and I'm actually quite excited about it. Because it's, yeah, I have worked my way towards this. I have. This is on the list. This is getting read in 2026. And I feel like I need to start reading Brandon Sanderson books more frequently than I do, just to keep everything I read sort of fresh in my mind. Those were it for series. Let's now jump to rereads. So, there are a few books I'm hoping to reread in 2026 actually. Let's start with a cute one. Let's start with, or not cute one necessarily, but yay! Nostalgic, sort of. I want to reread the Villains series by W.E. Schwab because the 3rd book is being released in sometime next year. We have Vicious and Vengeful, and these are 2 books in the Villains series by W.E. Schwab. It's a sort of more sci-fi series about these college students who have no respect for life. They have a shared interest in like adrenaline and near-death experiences that somehow give people extraordinary abilities. So they do a lot of experiments with that and things happen. And it's one of the first book series I read once I got back into reading. What is it now, like 5-6 years ago? So it's a bit nostalgic for me as well. I feel like I will enjoy this book so much more upon my reread. The first one I didn't enjoy as much. I thought that their complete disrespect for human life was quite annoying. The second book I loved and gave 5 stars. So I'm very curious to see what my thoughts will be about it now. I will tab it a bit more. I have like 3 tabs from last time or whatever. But I'm gonna tab it a bit more, make an experience out of it. And I'm also adding the 3rd book called Victorious, I think, onto this list. Because I am certain that I will actually read that book next year. I don't want to put all of my anticipated reads on this list, because even though they are anticipated reads, I might just not get to them. But if I read this series, I'm definitely gonna pick up Victorious and read that in 2026 as well. Another series I plan on rereading because of a book that's being released next year is the Six of Crows series. Another nostalgic one, right. I have the gorgeous collector's edition of these books. Also one of the first book series I read like 5 years ago. And both were 5 stars. I enjoyed it so much. I know that this series has been a bit controversial lately because they like remade the books, or they rewrote the books and edited the characters' ages, because this is technically young adult and the characters are like 17-18 years old. I know that back in the day people actually complained about it because it's quite heavy themes and topics in this, and the characters are quite badass, so people didn't buy that they were that young. And I feel like that's the reason why they have now aged them up or not really given their ages in the new editions. And honestly, I'm not bothered by it. I understand that people are upset because they haven't disclosed that they made those edits in the books. So if you buy a book and you get a different edition, that's weird. They should have just written like that it's a rewritten edition or whatever. But I'm not bothered by the fact that they have aged them up. Maybe I will be once I reread this, because I will find where it might not work with the story or whatever. But I remember people being like, oh, in order to make these more sellable for YA, they had to age the characters down. They should have been older, they should have been more like new adult, so that the themes and topics could be heavier. So it's like a bit of back and forth. But nevertheless, I'm reading these two because there's actually some sort of novella in this series being released in 2026. We're getting a book called Letters from Ketterdam, which is a short story that takes place, I think, after the events of Crooked Kingdom. And it's like letters between a couple of the characters. And I'm just excited about it, because I really like this world and these characters. So I thought that I might as well reread the books before I get to that book. And rereading these books might make me want to finally read the King of Scars series. I should put it down on this list. I'm not gonna to, for whatever reason, I don't know why. But I might finally read the King of Scars duology. And then a third reread I really want to do, which are for books I read many years ago. As mentioned, I've been on sort of a reread kick in 2025. I reread the Hunger Games books, I reread the Twilight books, and I feel like I want to continue with this nostalgia, and I really want to reread the Fallen Angel series by Becca Fitzpatrick. I loved these books back in the day when I was like 14, 15, something like that. We have Hush Hush, Crescendo, Silence, and Finale. So this is a quadrilogy or quartet of books about a fallen angel and a human girl. We're back to the like paranormal, urban fantasy, which is sort of similar to Twilight. This cover is like so freaking nostalgic, right? This is also one of the first series I read entirely in English, so that's another big thing, a nostalgic thing for me. And I'm just curious if they're gonna hold up. I've seen these books on some list from people where they're like, these books did not age well, they are not well written. But I also feel like maybe they are, and people are just hating on what young girls used to like. I don't know. I've had this idea for a while to reread these books. That's why I have them in my apartment and not at my parents' place. So yeah, all 4 of these books I'm hoping to read. I might actually annotate in them, similarly to how I done it with Hunger Games and Twilight. Very nostalgic. Extremely nostalgic, right? But it's gonna be fun. Those were the big categories. Now we can talk about travel. I'm hoping to do quite a bit of traveling in 2026. Not everything has been like planned for or confirmed yet. I have a few ideas, but nothing set in stone. But I actually have one trip booked and another one is completely decided. We just haven't booked it yet. And the first trip that I'm doing this spring is actually I'm going to Athens together with my mom. I'm really excited about it. Going there for like a weekend together with my mom, and we're gonna do all of the touristy things and maybe like some history stuff and also have good food, all of that. And I thought that I could pick some books for that actually. I had a look on my bookcase because I know I have a few like Greek retellings and stuff that would be a good idea for me to read actually in preparation for this trip. So I pulled Mythos by Stephen Fry. This book has been on my bookshelf for years, and this is the Greek myths untold, and I feel like this is perfect in preparation for that trip. I've been meaning to read it for years, and like me going to Greece is like the perfect excuse. Another myth retelling, but a fiction book, is Ariadne by Jennifer Saint. I know that Jennifer Saint has plenty of books of like retellings. I've always been intrigued, but I haven't really read any yet. So I thought that, okay, I will pick this one up, read it and see if I like it, and then possibly pick up other books as well. And this is a retelling of Ariadne, a princess of Crete and daughter of King Minos. So it's a retelling of the myth with the Minotaur and the labyrinth and all of that. So this is on the list. I feel like it would be a good read. And then, this is gonna look stupid, but we can't really talk about Greek books, Greek myths, Greek retellings, Greek plays, Greek stories, all of that, without mentioning the Iliad and the Odyssey. I have this gorgeous leather-bound edition of both books by Homer. It's translated by Samuel Butler, and I've been meaning to read this. I started it even, like a bunch of years ago. I read 60 pages. I've done great. But I thought that, when else will I read this? Except for now. And I'm counting this as 2 books. The Iliad and the Odyssey. At first I thought like, oh, I could go with only the Iliad. But if I manage to get through Iliad in this one, I might as well just continue with the Odyssey. And on top of that, the Odyssey is actually being adapted into a movie in 2026, which I'm really excited about because it has a really star-filled cast. So this can also count, or at least the Odyssey can also count as a book for an adaptation, which is another category I will get to soon. Insane, but also when else will this happen? And then my next trip that I pulled a few books for is actually for the fall. I'm going on a trip with my friends to South Korea and Japan. It's something we've talked about for years. I've been there already, but many of my friends haven't yet. And we've talked about it for years that, oh, it would be really cool if we did this trip together. And this is the year when it's happening. Like, we know it's happening. So I thought I would pull books representing that. So I picked Welcome to the Hyunamdong Bookshop by Hwang Bo-rum. And this is a book by a South Korean author. I feel like it's just like cozy fiction, perhaps a bit speculative, but like every day in this bookstore. And from what I know, this is also sort of getting a sequel in 2026, or it might have already been released actually, something like Every Day in the Bookshop or something like that. And another cozy book about books is a Japanese book. What You're Looking For Is in the Library by Michiko Aoyama. It's about the magic of libraries and the discovery of connection. Someone gives out unique book recommendations and people find what they need to achieve their dreams. Sounds cute. I just thought it was a good idea and fitting with the theme of travel. And also it's been on my TBR for a while. Speaking of adaptions, since I mentioned the Odyssey, and I only have 1 book in here, even though you can sort of count the Odyssey for that, and that is You and Me on Vacation by Emily Henry. This is being released as a movie on Netflix at like the start of January or something, so I basically need to get to this one ASAP. And I will make an attempt to do that actually. That's why I have it. I have picked it up from the library. And I really enjoyed Emily Henry's Book Lovers. I enjoyed it so much, which was very unexpected because I didn't necessarily enjoy Beach Read. But I've heard that if you liked Book Lovers, you might like this one as well. So I have been excited to pick it up. It's sort of friends to lovers, 2 best friends, 10 summer trips, the last chance to fall in love. I want to read it before the movie. So that's the plan. And then I believe, if everything's been counted correctly, that we only have 2 books left in the other category. One book that was on my most anticipated books of 2025, but I just never got to, and I need to prioritize a bit more, is Bury Your Bones in the Midnight Soil by V. Schwab. I have this stunning special edition from Illumicrate with a slipcase. Look at that. It's gorgeous. But I never got to this book. This is a standalone fantasy from V. Schwab about toxic lesbian vampires, from my understanding. It's told throughout centuries. We're following 3 different women's lives as vampires, and that's all I know. And I need to make it a priority, because this was one of my most anticipated books of 2025, and I didn't get to it. So I need to get to it in 2026. And then the final book, which might look like an odd one, and this one has been through it, and has been on my shelves for years and all of that. Sapiens by Yuval Noah Harari, or Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind. I have a goal for 2026, which is to read more history books. I will aim to read at least 2 history books in 2026. I would love to read more, but just like a realistic goal, I'm gonna make sure I read 2 books about history in 2026. Can this count towards that? I think so. Yeah, because it's A Brief History of Humankind, duh. Because I do read like non-fiction and memoirs and stuff like that, but I want to focus on specifically history books. I want to learn more about the world, I want to understand more about the world, I want to read about different cultures and like historical events and big things happening and stuff. So that's really something I want to focus on next year. And I thought that starting with the book I already own and already have made attempts to read is a good place to start. So I think I actually started it about 5 years ago, read about 100 pages, put it aside, then started to reread it a couple of years ago, read 100 pages, and then put it aside. I'm going to continue with the rest of the book in 2026 is my aim. I have tabbed it a bit, actually. We have like timeline of history, and I also highlighted certain parts I'm fairly certain of. And I feel like this is a good start. That is why this is a part of my like New Year's resolution, let's say. And those are it. Those are the 26 books I'm hoping to read in 2026. And I feel like this is, I want to say that it's a realistic list, or my motivations for these books are very realistic. But many of these books are quite chunky, I'm realizing now. Like, this is the only part of the series stack, and all of those are like 400 or 500 page books. There's not many short books on here. A lot of rereads that I feel like can be quicker, but also if I annotate them, that does take longer, so I don't know either. Yeah, I'm not gonna start doubting myself, I'm not. I'm gonna feel confident about this list, I sort of do, but it's a lot of books to get through. And I'm especially looking at The Way of Kings. I'm eyeing that one, it's teasing me, but I'm also excited. I am excited, and like the Iliad maybe isn't my strongest move, but when else am I gonna read the Iliad? I don't know really. So I feel like I need to get started on this 2026 reading list straight away actually. I have no time to sit here and talk to you guys. I need to get to reading if I want to pull through with this. Please let me know what books you think I should prioritize out of these ones, like out of this series books or fantasy books or whatever. Obviously there are some books I'm hoping to read at certain points throughout the year, but I would love to know what you think I should prioritize in this list of 26 books. Once again, I'm also sorry about my voice and about sounding a bit stuffy, but I'm just very glad that I'm back to filming, because I really, really enjoyed this actually. So thank you so much if you made it this far. And yeah, thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. Please take care, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!